Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shahab Karni from the studios of Television I-95 in Washington. Welcome to my studios. Today's topic that we have picked up is about Kashmir, of course. You know, that Kashmir story is is going on in the global scene for different reasons. But today our focus will be Kashmir as a Switzerland of South Asia if given the proper status and opportunity for economic gains. And with that particular subject, I have a very relevant guest. I will say Mr. Farooq Siddiqi, who is the president of Kashmir Global Council and an international consultant of a repute. And he has a good knowledge, in-depth knowledge of economy and whatever needs to be done in that region. Welcome to my studio, Mr. Siddiqui.
Thank you, Mr. Karni, for having me.
So let us start with the first angle of the conversation, that Kashmir region as a whole in South Asia. What do you think? Because you are an indigenous Kashmiri. I mean, when I make that statement that the entire Kashmir region has a potential of becoming the Switzerland of South Asia, what is your take on it, sir?
Yes, thank you very much. It's a very interesting topic. And the analogy between Switzerland and Kashmir at many points is so coincidental. And in that, probably the best thing would be that I would first let you know what are the similarities between Switzerland and Kashmir. Many people call Kashmir as Switzerland of Asia. I would say that it could have been that Switzerland could have be called as Kashmir of Europe. But anyway, because Kashmir didn't get that opportunity that over the centuries Switzerland has got, so it is in the other way around. But no biases there. Let me explain. Switzerland, the first of all, is a plateau on the northern side of the Alps. Kashmir is a valley within the Himalayan range. So geographically, Switzerland is landlocked, and it has about 5 neighboring countries. Italy on the east side. On the west side, you have France. On the north side, Germany. And then you have also Austria on the east. So, and then Liechtenstein, that is also on the east. So it is a landlocked country, but it has flourished over the centuries because of its own governance and because it has been always an independent country. None of these neighboring countries ever have invaded Switzerland. Rather, they have taken always Switzerland's neutrality very seriously and always have what you call honored the status of Switzerland. Switzerland didn't want to get into the United Nations, but in 2002 it went and became a United Nations a member also. Kashmir, on the other hand, was an independent country till 1947, though it was controlled, it was ruled by a Maharaja who was not a Kashmiri, but within the Kashmir state, a Dogra. However, because it was a British, directly connected to the British Empire, and Kashmir was never part of the British India. That's very important that we should know that Kashmir, if it would have been kept the way it was in 1947, we could have been by now, at this stage, a member of the Commonwealth also, like Australia, like all other Commonwealth countries, both India and Pakistan. The area of Switzerland is about 16,000 miles, square miles. Area of Kashmir is 84,000 square miles. Kashmir is also landlocked by 3 countries, probably the fourth country also, a small portion. If you take the complete Kashmir, which is of 1947 geographical Kashmir, then it has its borders with Afghanistan also. The population of Switzerland is 8.5 million. The population of Kashmir is 20 million. But area to population, the the area to population index is sparse in Kashmir. So Kashmir has about 40 to 45 rivers, which if I accumulate the total mileage of those water resources at a potential of 5,000 feet average. Some of them are at 7,000 feet above sea level. Some of them are 9,000 feet above the sea level. The water reservoirs in Ladakh, which is about 9 to 11,000 feet. So there is that potential of water like Switzerland, though Switzerland doesn't have that potential energy of the water like Kashmir has. But compared to 40 rivers of Switzerland and about 43 rivers of Kashmir, it has a tremendous potential of water resources, which has not been as yet completely fully utilized. I have had a paper issued, which you can find on the net. If we alone, if in Kashmir we generate electricity from the water that it has, it will be about 20,000 megawatt of electricity, which is clean energy. And if I convert pound to pound that clean water energy to the barrels of oil, that means about 250,000 barrels per day is the capacity of the clean water energy in Kashmir, which has not been utilized completely. Kashmir has a geothermal. If you look at the map, a geothermal map of the world, you will find the whole, about 80% of Kashmir is within geothermal areas of the world. The Iceland has geothermal, and then Kashmir has geothermal. We have in Puga Valley automatic geysers coming out like Iceland. And some estimates is that within Puga Valley, there is about 5,000 megawatts of energy, which is readily available. All that you have to put some turbines around there, and you generate that electricity. Now, the forest. Let me explain in Kashmir. There is India, when it annexed Kashmir, there was a contract signed by the railways, National Railways of India, and the then Prime Minister of Kashmir, his government, Bakshi Ghulam Ahmed. They signed a 25-year term contract in which the sleepers, the railway sleepers of India, were to be utilized by the timber which was from Kashmir. And that timber was sold so cheap that it was about 5% of the international market. So it amounted to the plunder of Kashmiri forests, and were utilized those times in the Northern Railway as sleepers. Then the wooden sleepers were changed to the iron sleepers. So that was another plunder. We had sericulture as one of the most, if we refer to the Silk Empire book, which was written by a Westerner, you will see that the silk of Kashmir was one of the best silks industry at that time. In 1905, Srinagar itself had 45,000 people employed in silk industry, and this silk used to get exported all over the world. But that silk industry is no more in Kashmir. We come to the other day, a Kashmiri sapphire, only about 1 year back, a Kashmiri sapphire was auctioned in New York for $7.6 million. If you go to Padar Valley in Kashmir, you will see that there are mining, that surface mining. I'm not talking about the deep mining, the surface mining that was done by India over the last one and a half centuries. Even India and earlier to that, the Dogra regime, which mined the Padar Valley and Kishtwar and took out those those which is called blue diamonds. Those blue diamonds were scratched from the surface, and there lies uh, a lot of those blue diamonds under, if you go deeper into the mining in Kishtwar. So that's another asset. Then there is an asset that, because of the nature, has given Kashmir a water table which is within 3 to 4 feet or 5 feet maximum in the valley. So anything you put it in the ground will grow. The walnut, the apple, you say of any uh, fruits and agriculture, because 70% of the agriculture of Kashmir Valley is its bone of economy at present also. But that agriculture was never given a chance to grow. I will give you an example of how this occupation has affected the economy of Kashmir. Apples are the one of the produces that Kashmir produces within the valley, but its market, it has to get transported from Srinagar to Delhi in order for a Kashmiri owner to sell that apple. And from Srinagar to Delhi, transporting an apple will take him about 5 to 6 days from the time that it is taken out from the tree up to the time that it goes into the Delhi market, and from there onwards further into India. But what happens is that this poor guy from Kashmir who takes this apple to Delhi has to be has to sell his apple within 5 or 6 days. If he is not able to sell that, his whole apple truck is gone. So his own investment is, because there is no cold storage facilities in Kashmir, and deliberately it has been kept. So every time a person outside exports some fruits to India, he has to get the what is being offered by Indian uh, uh, Indian sellers in the market. So there is a lot of things in Kashmir which, because of the occupation, there's no investment. Because of the corruption, the government has, from the central government of India to their stooge governments in the state. It's a nexus, and then the army, and army has also plundered through its own ways, through its own transportation, especially the forests of Kashmir, and it so the most important thing in this, I will come to the point that because there is no investment, because there is no governance which would cater for the peoples. What is basically freedom of the people? The freedom of the people is that they get an equal opportunity to explore their own land. They get an opportunity to sell what is on their land or what is beneath their land. And if they have their own independence to do that, the society will flourish. Switzerland has a per capita income of $81,000 per capita income, and it doesn't have that much of agriculture. It has a service industry. It does not have too much of, it has tourism, but it is not dependent on tourism. It is on
Correct.
service industry. Earlier to that, it was dependent on pharmaceutical, because the temperature of Switzerland is temperate in those mountains, in the Alps, the plant. Similarly, Kashmir has a temperate climate. And even there was one time a factory from Indian government, they made a factory which is called HMT, Hindustan Metals. I think Hindustan Metals. Yeah, they made so HMT watches here. So Kashmir could have been a hub of pharmaceutical industry. It could have been a hub for all the minute uh, precision machinery, because you need
Mr. Siddiqui, what is the per capita income of Kashmir region?
the
Kashmir region.
Kashmiri's per capita income this time is $2,000.
My God, what a disparity! Now, I know,
$81,000 to
I know,
2,000.
I know. Now, thank you very much. I mean, you covered a lot of potential that Kashmir region offers to the world, especially in that part of the, Asia, for example. But my question to you, Mr. Siddiqui, what is stopping and what needs to be done way forward to reverse this course of inaction?
You see, when the interests of the people does not correspond to the interest of the occupying authorities or occupying society or occupying country, when there is no social contract between the people of Kashmir and people of India, no social contract, the it is becomes a colonizing country. So what, as I said earlier, is the most important thing is that Kashmir needs to get rid of an occupation which dictates its economical progress, which dictates its social progress, which dictates its how to proceed in an environment of threat and occupation. So, if that fear psychosis is removed from Kashmir's psyche, then what will happen automatically is that Kashmiris can explore what they can achieve with their own indigenous resources that they have.
And the
We are
potential
not
that they
even
have,
sure.
right?
Kashmiris even do not know that they have the resources there. You see, let me explain. India has started a railway line from Jammu to Srinagar to Kazigund and beyond, from there to Srinagar. And from Srinagar, it's going to go all the way to Baramulla. If you look at the coal reserves of India, then you will find that there is a huge coal reserve in Kashmir. And in future, you will see, if this occupation continues, you will see that India extricating coal from Kashmir and taking it through that railway line that they started about 15 to 20 years back. If you go, I mean, why did they put Union Territory of Ladakh separate than than Kashmir? It's because the uranium, if you go to Ladakh, this is not me speaking, it is Upadhyay, Dr. Upadhyay, who is a German professor. He had come to Kashmir, he went over to Ladakh, he took some samples from Ladakh and took it to the Germany and found out that the rocks in Ladakh have zirconium, which is from where you get uranium. The zirconium, it has 5% rather than 0.7% what India has in the southern India. So zirconium is something which is so important for India to have, so that it can extricate uranium for its needs. So that is why it wanted to have a control over Ladakh separately, and had nothing to do with the state government. These are economical issues, that economical, what I would say, colonization that India is doing, and much is not being told about it, much is not being known about it, and because the media is with them, because sometimes, unfortunately, on the other side of of Kashmir, we don't have that kind of media which would come up with these facts. So we are stuck in there. Uh,
So, on the final segment of this, Mr. Siddiqui, tell me one thing, please, and be candid. I mean, the dilemma that we are stuck, as far as India and Kashmir region is concerned, and these are economic losses and loss of opportunity, loss of time. Who is at loss? Don't you think India, Kashmir, Kashmiri people are at loss?
I
What
think
needs to be what needs to be
everybody,
done to
everybody. I
everybody is
mean,
at loss?
I
Right.
hope the people at the helm of affairs in both India and Pakistan, and even then China, look beyond the geographical control of Kashmir. Look
Hegemony.
beyond it
Yeah.
and look at the positive outcomes of what an independent Kashmir can offer. If we have been told, even Pakistanis sometimes say that, how can Kashmir be independent when it is landlocked? Let me answer to this. Switzerland is more landlocked than Kashmir, and it is also landlocked by countries which has nuclear power. France is a nuclear power,
Yes, sir.
right? And it is landlocked by those G7 countries. So let us look beyond this. Kashmiris can provide a constructive role in the geopolitics, in the geoeconomics, in the service industry, in the economical industry of both India as well as Pakistan. And if there are some visionary people in Pakistan, political system or political leaders in who have some vision beyond this rhetoric of religion and political geopolitical interests. Those times have gone when kings would come and conquer, and people would get that the taxes from the agriculture. So that those times have gone. Then it was important for you to have the territory under your control so that you could get the taxes from the people from who would be in the agriculture sector. But these days, agriculture takes backseat. What is important these days is the innovative knowledge and science and technology.
Very
So
well.
if you give opportunities, and at land which has all the resources, a land which has people who are very intelligent people, they are literate people also in Kashmir, both in Azad Kashmir, if you see that literacy rate is more than Pakistan itself.
Correct.
And the literacy rate in Kashmir itself is more than most of the states of India. So these people are well knowledgeable people who can be very competitive in coming times, and can become can have a constructive role in building that region for the betterment of both Indian people as well as Pakistani people. I hope my voice, my this plea goes to both the countries and even to China, that stop looking at Kashmir as a territory that you want to grab and control, rather than look at what benefits it has in terms of economy, in terms of relationships between nations around. And that is where I hope that the people, the audience who is here, they look at Kashmir not only a territorial issue between India and Pakistan, but also see an opportunity development for the 1.3 billion more than that.
People
People
in that region. Yes, there are more
region.
than that.
So
Mr. Siddiqui, thank you very much, sir. I'm so grateful. And trust me, I mean, our conversation does not stop here. We'll continue having this dialogue and conversation because you have a wealth of knowledge. And again, viewers, unless and until the indigenous Kashmiris do not have the voices or the right of self determination or decisions, nothing is going to happen, and the entire region is going to suffer for 70 plus more years. I mean, we have already close to 74 more years, but in future also, nothing is going to be resolved. We are losing the opportunity by the day. Mr. Siddiqui, thank you very much for joining me, sir.
thank you very much for having me.